This is why you're suffering right now. You thought your life was going to just be easy. We know that reading in the Bible that Jesus suffered the most gruesome, tormenting death. And he was mocked. He was spit on. He was whipped. He had nails put on his wrists, his legs. People hated him when he was on that cross. People hated him when he was off the cross. We were hated because Jesus was hated on first. You go throughout this life and people will hate on you. People will dislike you. You may have the most kind, most generous spirit and heart. People will still hate you for it. People will still hate you for it. It's like somebody asks you for money and they need to pay for an Uber or pay for a bill to get to their house. They ask you for it. They say they're going to pay you back. But you tell them, even out of your most generous heart and spirit, that you don't have to pay me back. And even then, these people just reach out to you just for money. But the reason they reach out to you is because you have a generous heart and spirit and you give. But then people are going to try to take advantage of that. Let me read Matthew chapter 27, verse 26 through 31. And this is talking about how the soldiers mocked Jesus. So Pilate released Barabbas to them. He ordered Jesus flogged with a lead-tipped whip, then turned him over to the Roman soldiers to be crucified. A lead-tipped whip, thorns. The Bible describes it as thorns, prickled thorns. You know what thorns could do to your flesh? It rips it off whenever you hit somebody. Rips off the person's skin. It doesn't just keep a lash mark there. Verse 27. Some of the governor's soldiers took Jesus into their headquarters and called out the entire regiment. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him. They wove thorn branches into a crown and put it on his head, and they placed a reed stick in his right hand as a scepter. Then they knelt before him in mockery and taunted, "Hail, King of the Jews!" And they spit on him and grabbed the stick and struck him on the head with it. When they were finally tired of mocking him, they took off the robe and put his own clothes on him again. Then they led him away to be crucified. It's crazy that Jesus' sacrifice is so symbolic of the Christian life. And he is the Christian life. We will be disliked. We may not have the most friends. You may not have the most friends. You may feel like you're in a place where people don't like you. You may be in an environment where people don't have your best judgment. They think you're one way when you're another way. People will judge you. People will judge you regardless. And this is the one thing you have to realize. You have to learn to live the way Jesus did. You have to learn to live the way God wants you to live. Don't allow society's judgments. Don't allow society's mockery, society's crucifixions and judgments to shape the way you think, shape the way you live. At the end of the day, you get to choose the way you want to live, but you should live for Jesus, because Jesus is going to guide you in the right direction. The way Jesus, not only was Jesus hated on, there is some positive ways. Jesus, taught to many different groups of people who didn't like him. To those people who struggle with, preaching the word in an environment that might not be subtle, or you feel like you're in an environment, period, that may not be the most appealing for you as a person, as a human being, as a Christian. They didn't like Jesus. They didn't like Jesus. They didn't like Jesus. They didn't even believe he was the Messiah for real. Until Jesus Jesus proved himself and did certain things. God knew, obviously, that God knows his son. But the people didn't know he was the Messiah. People hated on him. They were like, even Satan was like, if you are who you say you are, if you're the Messiah as you say you are, if you were the Son of God, if you are Jesus as you say you are, turn these stones into bread. But Jesus didn't let that counteract the way he was feeling, counteract the way he was walking in the wilderness. He didn't allow him to change Jesus' mind. If you learn anything from this video, that regardless of how people feel about you, live the way Jesus wants you to live. Because Jesus was hated first. I hope you enjoyed this video. And as always, God bless.